A, D, 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 F sharp A will be the first notes of our show.
We'll start with the seed of an idea,
Then plant it onto paper, and then watch it sprout into a musical.
and then we'll cross down stage toward you.
And now we're yelling fortissimo!
Yelling fortissimo!
Yelling fortissimo!
It's the opening song. It doesn't have a title, no, and it's not very long, but it's the starting point of our musical.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining me and my very special guest. She is one of the West End's most sought-after stars. You know her from such shows as Les Mis, American Psycho, Rent, and most recently as Jenna in Waitress. And she is one of the stars of the new production of Title of Show that will start streaming on Broadway HD beginning on April 22nd. Please say hello to Lucie Jones.
Hello, what a lovely introduction.
Well, we finally got together, you and I. This is great.
I know. Thank you for having me. This is so nice.
Well, we are thrilled. First of all, Lucie, how are you and where are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I am in West London in a very echoey room in my new place. I just moved. So I have no furniture in this room. I'm sat on the only chair in this room. So please excuse the fact that it sounds like I'm in some sort of great hall. I'm not. I'm just in my living room, but there's no furniture yet.
Well, you know, it's been over a year since the New York and the London theater shut down. You know, with a light at the end of the tunnel, the vaccinations are rolling out. Have your days gotten a little better than they were before?
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely. Although I was very lucky throughout lockdown, I was teaching. I was teaching people all over the world, singing, acting through song, and whatever they wanted to be learning about, really. So I managed to connect with hundreds and hundreds of people all over the world who were very like-minded to myself and lovely, lovely humans. So my lockdown was actually not so terrible because of that. You know, people have just been reaching out and connecting about these things, and it's been really lovely. But definitely now that things are starting to look a little bit brighter on the theatre front, I'm definitely excited about that.
Well, you know, with the talks of a theater opening again, especially here in America and, of course, there in the UK, how do you hope the theater will look when it comes back? Like how inclusive it should be? What are your thoughts on that?
I really hope that everyone who walks into a theatre after this feels welcomed and feels like they're coming home, whether they've been to the theatre before, whether they've fallen in love with theatre through lockdown, because there's been so many amazing streams of things. And I've definitely connected with people who've said, I wasn't really into theatre before, I never had the time, or I didn't make the time, or whatever, and now they will. I really hope that when, as an audience, if you walk into a venue or a theatre, then you feel like you belong, because I think that's the most important thing, is that our audiences are, you know, thriving and feel welcomed and comfortable.
Beautiful. So what has this past year been like for you and your husband, Ethan? I mean, what's it been like?
It's been intense. We just moved from a teeny tiny flat, but we're good friends, so we had a great time and we laugh a lot. And he's been working as well, so we've had distractions away from just relying upon each other. So it's been good. It's been good, but we did just move house, like I say, so we're kind of concentrating on that right now.
No, because over the year, I've spoken to stars all around the world, as far as Cherry Jones in Sweden, and it has to do with if you're living alone or if you're living with somebody or if you have kids. Everyone's gone through a whole different way that they've been living in the pandemic. That's why I asked you what it's been like for you and your husband, because my husband and I, we loved being together. We've actually enjoyed this, and I'm sure you've done the same thing with Ethan.
Yeah, we have. Thank you. That's really sweet. And we really have. And I work in the theatre, so of course we don't spend that much time together normally. So we've had a really great year. just hanging out and playing and laughing, and it's been really nice.
Well, congratulations on the new production of the Jeff Bowman and Hunter Bell musical Title of Show that you co-star along with my friend Jenna Russell, Tyrone Huntley, Mark Elliott, that starts streaming on Broadway HD April 22nd. How exciting was it being a part of this?
Oh, so exciting. I love Title of Show. My agent rang me and when he got this email and said, you have to do this. This is my favorite thing ever. And he regaled this story to me of when he was young and he was walking through somewhere in New York where there was some sort of outdoor performance going on, and he heard Heidi singing "Standing in the Backyard, Kool-Aid mustache and butterfly wings." He said he just heard it like floating out of the ether, and he was like, what is this show? And so he went to see it and fell in love with it, saw it again during his trip to New York that time. And then just, never thought that because they were those specific people, he never thought he'd have a client to play one of those roles. So when it came in for me, he was kind of said, jump, go, do it. And I was like, yeah, I want to. And I have wanted to work with Jenna Russell since Jenna Russell existed. I am so obsessed with her. And I know it sounds so cliche. They say don't meet your heroes, but then I did, and mine was awesome. This woman's not just awesome. I mean, she's your friend. She is, I feel like I could ring her with like man trouble, or if I needed an outfit recommendation, or like, where did you get those trainers from, Jenna? Why are you so cool? She's just amazing. And the heart and soul that she brings to everything she does, I just knew at some point I had to be in a room with her, even if I was, sweeping the floor after she left so that I could watch. But I'm so, so grateful that I got to do this. And the two boys as well, just amazing, just brilliant cast. And I loved it. What an amazing thing to do in lockdown as well. It was so joyous.
So where did you film it?
We filmed at the London Coliseum, which is the home of English National Opera. We filmed in one of the rehearsal rooms, actually, at the hall. But it was really quite special to be there, just to be in the theatre. I've sat and watched shows there, but I'd never been backstage there before, and it's really got kind of a grand feeling about it. When you go to those old, like obnoxiously amazing, beautiful buildings that hold so much history in theatre and arts. And I just kind of was walking around thinking, who's walked down this hall? And, there's like childhood moments where you go, the child in me is screaming right now. It was one of those.
Now talk about your director.
Our director was a wonderful, wonderful boy. We'd never met before, and we have a very good mutual friend. So our mutual friend, Jordan, sent me a text and said, you're about to work with the greatest guy. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So we had a little call before we started rehearsals, and he's so gentle and so thoughtful. And he would just, bless him. I don't know how he did it, because we were like 4 excited children who hadn't been, let out into the playground for a year or whatever it was, 8 months, 10 months at that point. And we'd sit on Zoom trying to do rehearsals, and he'd just let us go and go and go and go. And then eventually one of us would say, shh, let Josh speak. And then he'd go, I do have some thoughts. And he'd really gently regale them to us. And he was just brilliant. I loved working with him. He really kept the truth and the silliness of Title of Show, but then gave it absolute gravitas as well.
Now mention his name.
His name is Josh. Sorry, I said Jordan, didn't I? Yes, I was talking about Jordan, our friend. His name is Josh, and I can't remember where actually we went for a drink when we finished filming. It was when you were allowed to sit outside of a pub in London, or you could meet outdoors and have a social time. And the last night of the show, him and I and one or two other people that were involved in the production, in the stream, the filming, we went and sat outside of this pub, and we just kind of and let all of this tension go, because it was so intense. It was such an intense moment of, none of us had done anything for so long. He was the captain of a very precarious ship that had been bobbing along on Zoom for maybe 2 weeks or so. And then we filmed it all in 2 days. So it was he just absolutely blew us all away. He was gorgeous.
Okay, now you play the role of Heidi. I mean, like I said, what's it like living in that role? What did you enjoy the most?
Well, I just really loved. I didn't know too much about Heidi as a person outside of the way she is portrayed in the show, and I chose to not learn that because I asked the boys. We did with Jeff. We zoomed with Jeff at the very beginning of the rehearsal process, and I said to him, I don't. It's a really weird thing playing a real person because I don't want to offend her. I don't want her to watch it and be like, "What the hell was that? Do you think I speak that way?" Or, do you know what I mean? It was like, it's because it's very personal, because it's their words. It's not even based upon their lives. It's quite literally them. That's why it's so genius. I loved it. And he said, well, this is always the question we get asked, but we love going to watch school productions, college productions, other touring professional productions of our show, because we love seeing how people interpret us off the page. And that's half of the joy of it. And I was like, okay, so I really, I have played Elle Woods, so maybe I was infected by that. But I really kind of thought Heidi was just like this kind of a girl. And now I know she's absolutely not. She's absolutely not. But I kind of played her like how I read her on the page. And she really was kind of Elle Woods. So I really hope, Heidi, if you ever see this, I really hope I didn't offend you. I was told in good faith that I wouldn't be offending you no matter what I did. But I loved playing Heidi for that reason, because I was constantly kind of going, you're playing a real person here. And I'd just done Jenna in Waitress, who she's not a real person, but she's a natural character. We're not playing a cat here, or it's a real person. So I was kind of in that kind of naturalistic place anyway, which I love, and that's what I really love to do. So I just loved stepping into someone's shoes that I was constantly saying to myself, really, really more than ever, asking why did she say that, or what was she feeling there, and because it's a real person. Even more than I usually would in my normal process, I was digging into that. And I just loved, I'm a geek though, I love that side of it. So it was brilliant.
Well, everybody here cannot wait to see this production, which starts streaming on April 22nd at Broadway HD. Why do you think people around the world have fallen in love with this musical?
Because it's so funny. It's so weird and bonkers and cuckoo and grounded at the same time, that it's unapologetic as well for the world that we all love and work in and hate and fear and detest and enjoy and thrive upon. It's a roller coaster, and that's what this show really shows. That and when I first ever listened to the album, I was like, what the hell's going on here? This is so monkeys and playbills, and what is this? I can't tell you how long it took me to learn that, by the way. I am not great with lyrics, so all of that like canon stuff blew my mind. I think people love it because of that, and also because you're stemming into real human life. It's a little bit of a, we shine a light upon a part of the industry that people don't usually know that much about. And, I've got friends that don't work in theatre, and they say, what are you up to? And I'll say, I'm doing a workshop for a musical. And they're like, what's that? And so to have that put on stage, which is completely fine, to have that put on stage and talked about, and to know all of the problems, like, are we going to get funding? How are we going to get the publicity? Who can we get? And then the getting replaced by a celebrity, and especially now, that's so relevant, isn't it? We see it all the time. So yeah, I think it's just the real life drama. You can't write it. You can't write it as good as that. And they didn't. They just did it, and that's it. It's just it's gold because of that.
Well, that is great. I want to go back to the beginning. Growing up, where did your love for the theater begin? And how did seeing Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat play into that?
Oh my gosh, as if you know that. That's hilarious. I mean, everyone's seen Joseph, obviously, but My mum, well, my dad and my brother, my whole family, my grandmother, we love the theatre, and we always used to go as often as we could. We would go to, I grew up in Cardiff in Wales, and we'd go to the New Theatre in Cardiff, and we didn't used to get, it's about an 800-seater, I think, the New Theatre. So we didn't get the huge touring shows from the West End. We'd get the slightly smaller ones or the plays. And then we had a big hall, St. David's Hall, where the ballets used to go. So we'd get the student tickets and we'd go and see all of those pieces. My mum she's a theatric at heart, definitely. She did English and drama at university, and then she went into teaching, and she's done lots of things since then, but she's definitely a drama queen, which is definitely where I get that from. But Joseph, I just remember, I used to love anything that had kids in it when I was a kid, because I'd be like, that could be me. God, I remember it so clearly, sitting in and seeing the choir on the steps, and I was like, who are they? How do they get that go? Why aren't I up there? I want to do that. I didn't know you could do that. Like, look, there's children. And it was my first kind of link of, they're a child and they're on the stage, but they're gonna grow into be adults. And it sounds really weird. They're gonna grow to be adults, and there's adults on that stage. Maybe that could be me. Oh my gosh. And it was the first kind of moment I thought, I could do this for a living. Isn't that crazy? What a hoot. So Joseph was that day. And I've seen Joseph many, many, many times. And I would love to do Joseph as well. It's one of my dream roles, to play the narrator, not to play Joseph. That would be weird. But anything is possible, right? But yeah, I loved Joseph, and then my mum did some digging in the local area and found a couple of opportunities for me, and then I did Annie at that New Theatre where I'd seen Joseph. I was on that stage playing Duffy in Annie. Can anybody get any sleep around here? That was my big line. Thank you. And also, the only time in my life where I've been trusted to do tap dancing on stage. I'm not a good dancer, Richard. It is just not my bag. I did the so senator, so janitor. I can still do the choreography to this day if I have more space. Actually, this echoey floor, it would be quite nice, actually, wouldn't it? Yeah. But yeah, that was my first shining moment.
I love that.
Oh, it's great. I love Annie. Annie's one of my favorite shows. I love Annie.
Well, eventually you'll grow into Miss Hannigan many, many years from now, right?
I hope you mean on stage.
Yes, totally. No, I meant on stage, of course. But when you were seeing Joseph that day, didn't you turn to your brother and say, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. What did your brother tell you at Joseph? Didn't he say something like,
that was at, interestingly, that was at We Will Rock You, the first show I saw in the West End, at the Adelphi Theatre. At the Dominion Theatre.
Yeah.
We walked down to the front of the stage, of the auditorium at the stage, and we turned around and looked at the theatre, and I said, wow, I'm going to work in here one day. And he said, yeah, as the cleaner.
Okay, so...
And then I performed there at Christmas time, so he can suck it.
Okay, so when he saw you, because you eventually did We Will Rock You, right? You did a huge tour of that. How incredible was going from your first show you saw in the West End, like dreaming, and then one day getting to take on that role?
Yeah, no, that was amazing. And I actually wasn't supposed to do that. Fate was on my side there. Yeah. The girl, I played Meatloaf in We Will Rock You. And the girl who was booked to do the job, I didn't get it. And then she pulled out. About 3 weeks after she'd signed her contract, she got a huge opportunity elsewhere. And they said, yes, off you go. And they came back to me, little old me. And I was like, yes, of course, please take me. I'll pay you. I just need to go. Let me. And so we went on the World Arena Tour, the 10th anniversary of We Will Rock You. And that was just amazing. What a fun show. Yeah. You'll never see an audience like at the end of We Will Rock You in an arena when they're doing Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise playing in this. And everyone's going nuts. It was brilliant. Brilliant.
Did your brother see you in that?
Yeah, he did.
See, I love it. No, I love these full circle moments. But, One of your first big breaks came on season 6 of The X Factor. Now, these are a big deal. What did you take away from that experience, looking back?
Oh. I was listening this morning to Patti LuPone's memoir, and it's on Audible. She reads it as the audiobook. And in I think in the first chapter, she says about her first experience in television, where she realized that before the show, she overheard a producer telling one of the acts, "You're going to win." And she was a child, and she went back to her mum, and they didn't believe her. And she said, from that experience, I added the word jaded to my vocabulary. And I was like, that's a really good way to describe it, because at the time, doing the X Factor for me, and at the time it was a huge show. I think there was something like 20 million people watching the night that I got kicked out. Great. But that's a huge amount of people for television in the UK. So I used to watch it. I was religious. I'd sit every Saturday, and then every Saturday and Sunday when they added the extra show, and really milked it. I loved the experience when I was there. And then the minute it was over, it was all very clear. And I like the way that it worked, and the fact that they're making a TV show, and it was just kind of a light bulb moment of, right, okay, get ready for that, because that's not going to just be here, which it hasn't. But it definitely doesn't ruin it for me. I loved X Factor. I met my husband doing X Factor. I met loads of friends. It absolutely gave me a start into a career. I'd auditioned for musical theatre conservatoires and universities in the UK, and I hadn't got in anywhere to do my age 18 kind of training. So I was looking for something, and X Factor provided me my in. And when I got kicked off the show, this management team said to me, "Well, what do you want to do? What's your goal, Lucie?" And I was like, "Musicals. Put me in touch with someone who can help me do musicals." And they did. And my agent at the time, then his assistant, has been my acting agent for 10 years, 11 years now. And yeah, he was a guest at my wedding. He's a wonderful human being, and I'm a huge fan of all things Gavin. That's his name.
I love that. And you met your husband at boot camp, right?
Yes, we did. I mean, there was nothing going on then for a long time. He was very cool. He's from Chicago, but he's got this kind of like real neutral accent. He's gorgeous. And every woman was like, "Oh my God, look at it. He's amazing." So I was like, yeah, that's never going to happen. And a couple of years later, he was traveling around Southeast Asia with a friend, posting all these incredible photographs on Facebook. And I slid into his DMs, Rich, I don't mind telling you. And I said, "Hey, when you're back, if you're in the UK, you should let me know. I'd love to catch up and hear all about your travels." And then that was it. We never went back.
I love it. Did he propose to you on video?
He did. Yeah, it's on YouTube. I put it on my YouTube channel. It was too good not to share. One of at our wedding, in the best man speech, our friend Steve said, I didn't meet Lucie for a little while because, she's always busy with rehearsals and shows and things. But when I did meet her, I just loved her. And they'd only been going out for a couple of months. But what's really creepy is that Ethan had already started filming her proposal by then. And I was like, that is creepy. You're a creep.
He's a very handsome creep, and you've been with him for a long time.
Yeah, I'll take it. Fine. Not a problem for me.
Totally. Well, you have such a great career on the West End. I'd like to mention some of the highlights. Just tell me what comes to mind, a fun story or a great memory.
Oh, good question.
You have an incredible history with Les Mis.
Oh,
where
yeah.
did it all begin for you, Les Mis? How did that all happen?
Oh, well, in the grand scheme of things, Les Mis began for me when my dad bought me the 10th anniversary on VHS. And I wore it out. So then he got me another one, and I wore it out again. I just used to, don't get me wrong, I wasn't interested in the whole show at age 7. I just wanted to do "Good evening, dear inspectors, lovely evening, my dear." And when Gavroche had his whole Little People song in that original version, And I watched Eponine on repeat, and I watched Fontaine on repeat. So when I came to, I'd never seen the show when I auditioned for it, which seems bonkers, doesn't it? I'd seen that video many, many times, but I honestly don't know if I'd watched it the whole way through ever. I mean, I was a child. It's a long show. What do you want from me? So when I was 16, I think my first agent in Cardiff said, we need to get you an audition for Eponine. And I was like, yeah, you do. Can we do that? So I auditioned, and they kind of said, you know, you're a bit young, but when you're a little bit older, we'd love to see you again. Keep in touch. And then Les Mis was the first show that I auditioned for when I came out of X Factor then in 2009. And I was on the tube on my way to my audition, my final round. And this girl was sat opposite me, and I could see her looking at me, and I was like, I know that girl, that's weird. And she kind of waved at me, and I took my headphones off, and she said, are you Lucie Jones? And in the moment I was like, I know exactly who you are. I was like, yeah, are you Samantha Box? And she went, yeah, I love your boots. And I was like, cool, we're friends. This is awesome. And we are. She was a bridesmaid at my wedding. She came to my birthday at the weekend. Like, she's my best friend. But she said to me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to a Les Mis audition. She said, me too. And I was like, great. Well, that's the end of that then. But luckily, Cameron and Nick and everyone in the team kind of looked at me next to Sam and said, you look like you could be a Cosette. Can you sing this note? And played a top D. And I was like, sure, I'll give it a go. I mean, I'll try anything once, right? Bearing in mind, I had no idea what I was doing. I'd had singing lessons and things, but I didn't know how to deal with pressure, you know, changing of, I'd done X Factor at this point. But this was my first musical moment, and I was so keen for it to work out, you know, gagging for it. And thank God I managed to, maybe it was adrenaline, I don't know what, but I squeezed that note out, and I got cast as Cosette. That was in 2010, and Barks got cast, so Samantha got cast as Eponine in the show there. And then we did the show together, and we did the 25th anniversary together, and then she went off and did Oliver on tour and got Eponine in the movie. And I will never forget her ringing me to tell me that. And well, she texted me, actually. She just texted me saying, got it. Like one word, got it. And I was like, and I rang her mum. I rang her mum's house phone, and I was like, oh my God, it's happening. And we were on the phone for ages. I'll never forget it. And so, yeah, I was in the show for a year then. And just before Christmas, when the concert was running, the All-Star concert was running in the West End here, Gavin rang me up and said, he'll occasionally ring me and just sing a song from a musical to me. And that usually means we've had a call, or there's an audition for, or would you like to do X musical? And I picked up the phone and I went, hi, babe. And he went, I dreamed a dream. And I was like, no. And he was like, yeah, there's a short extension of the concert in February for 2 weeks. And would you like to go in and audition for Fontaine for that extension? And I was like, obviously, yes. He said, do you need me to send you the material? And I said, no. I've been prepping for this since I was 8. Thank you. So, he did send me the material, obviously, and I went over it with my singing teacher, and I went in and sang it at the theatre for Cameron and everyone. And Cameron said, oh, how depressing. You're back to play your mother. And I was like, I know. I'm actually really thrilled about it, but let's go. So I sang it all, and then they called the next day and said they'd love me to come in and do this 2-week run. And I was like, hallelujah. Anyway, went and did my costume fit-in, signed my contract, and then COVID round 47 hit. Everything closed. I was doing Christmas Carol with the London Musical Theatre Orchestra at the Dominion, where We Will Rock You used to play. And I was like, well, that's it. It's gone. And then... Boris Johnson came on our TVs in February and said, you must go to work on the 17th of May. Theatres may open. And I was like, oh my God, are they going to call? Is it going to happen? And then literally the next day, Gavin called and said, so how do you feel about doing it for 3 months? And I was like, oh my God, I could cry. It's just so special. And it would have been so incredible to, you know, to step in for Carrie because she was going off to originate a part in a new musical and she's my friend. And it just would have been so magical and special to do that. But to get a longer run and to really find my feet with such an iconic character, I'm just beside myself. I don't really know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to cry and die and cry and die and cry and die.
That's going to be a great May for you when this starts up again, playing Fantine.
Yeah, May the 4th be with me. Definitely. It's, I can't, especially after, you know, the last year and a half at that point. And I didn't quite get to finish my run at Waitress because of COVID. And I didn't get a last show or, you know, we didn't have any of those things. So getting to start back now with something so special. And then I'm going to go and do the tour of Waitress in the UK. So yeah, it's going to be a busy summer, and I'm beside myself, really, Rich. I don't know what to do with myself. It's been a time of no good news, and to have multiple good news is almost makes me feel guilty. But I'm definitely a person that's worked my socks off since day dot. So you know, the guilt is not the overriding feeling. Definitely.
I love it. We have to get into. We have to talk about Jenna in Waitress. I had so many friends over there in the UK, in the West End, see you in this role. How glorious was it stepping into the role of Jenna in Waitress?
It was a dream come true. I'd been on tour for maybe 5 or 6 years at this point, and my last tour was Legally Blonde, having played it sat still as well, and then I went on the tour. I was tired. Elle is not a joke. Elle is a sprinted marathon, and my God, she's bae. I will love her forever. But I was tired. And so I said to my agent, I need to break from being on the road. How would you feel about me just, you know, remaining available and potentially not taking a tour if it comes in, or let's just not even audition for things if we think it's, because I just wanted to sit still. You know, it's a crazy life. It really is. And I'd had a few years when I was doing Rent, we were doing 8 shows a week on the road. Halfway through that, I went off and did Eurovision. And then I got married, and then I went straight into Legally Blonde, having done a 6-week stint in Wedding Singer on the road in between. And it was just like, ooh, it was absolutely amazing and all I ever wanted. But I just wanted a breather. And so he said, yeah, I've wanted this for you for years. So let's take now as an opportunity to do that. And I think that was like a May kind of conversation. And then an August conversation on the phone whilst I was in Italy with my family for my dad's birthday, on a boat, like a ferry boat going from one place to another place. Gavin rang and said, "It's not simple to say." And I was like, "No way." And he said, "Yes way, they would love to see you." And by this point, I'd sent him 3 or 4 emails and said, "Is Waitress definitely coming? Are they going to do, I've heard about this. Is this happening?" And I knew that some you know, videotapes had been done of there was a list of actresses that they would love to have played the role in the West End. So they'd done tapes months before. And I wasn't on that list. And I was like, that's fine. You know, if they don't find what they want, I will force myself upon them. It's okay. So yeah, eventually I went in and I did my audition. And amazingly, I was the first person that they saw in those in-person auditions. And I went into the room and it was myself, the musical director, and Barry Weisler, and a pianist. And thank God I had done an abundance of research and preparation, and because let me tell you, I've never wanted so much anything in my life. I was so avidly invested in it, and I thought, even if I don't get it now, I know I've done everything I possibly could, and I've loved it. I've loved looking into Jenna and the history of the show and the movie and the writers and Sarah, and we'll do that another time, but I could talk for days about it.
Yeah.
But I've just realised my laptop's really dark. Sorry. Hey, let there be light. Sorry. So I went in and Barry said, "Lucie, sit down." And he said, "So how do you connect with Jenna? And I was like, well, Barry, let's go. And I just talked with him for about 45 minutes. And then he said, maybe we should sing. And I was like, I'm sorry. Don't know if you're getting this, Richard, but I can definitely chat for days. And about that, I was like, let me tell you everything I've read, everything I've learned, everything I've looked into. And so, yeah, I went through the whole audition process, and eventually we did this final round where there was 2 Jennas, 2 Dr. Pomaters, 2 Ogies, 2 Earls, you know, all these people. And we did a mix and match, like chemistry reads, but in the room. So we were up and we were singing and we were acting, and I, like, poor David, didn't tell him in advance, but we did Bad Idea. And at the end, I'd seen bits of it by that point. So I just grabbed him and I kissed him. I was like, sorry. Afterwards, I'm so sorry. I don't know if that's okay. I just thought I'd do it. And there was one point where we had the scene before You Matter to Me, but the boys had been sent the song and the girls hadn't. And so Sarah said, David, we're going to do, so I don't know why I do accents for everyone. It's sorry, I'm in now. I've got to carry on. David, we're going to do the scene before You Matter to Me, but we'll stop at the song because Lucie hasn't had the song. And I had this like internal conversation with myself of, do I do this? Yeah. And I went, actually, I do know the song if you want us to do it. And she was like, well, like, oh no, that's great, but the album version is different to the show. And I was like, yeah, no, I know the show version. I was like, oh my God, I'm such a nerd. I was like, oh, she's going to think I'm such a freak. And she was like, well, let's check it. So she comes over to the piano and she sits down at the piano, Queen Borealis, and me and David were looking at each other like, sorry, my laptop's gone all skew now. But me and David are looking at each other like, oh my God, this is crazy. And so then to eventually get on stage and play the role, because Kat McPhee came over and opened the run here. And then I got to go in slightly before I was due. She had a wedding dress fitting in the States. So she went back to New York, and I don't know why they did it and not put a cover on, but they chose to get me in a bit early, and they didn't do a press announcement or anything. So the curtain just went up and there I was holding the pie, and very weird. Amazingly, that night at the show in the audience was, I didn't know him at the time, but was the guy who's going to be playing Dr. Pomater on the tour with me from September. And we worked together at Christmas, and he said, I was at your first show and I sat behind your parents and I watched them watch you do the show for the first time, and it was like a really special thing. And I was like, oh my God, that's so nice. And now he's going to do it as well. So yeah, it was a dream role. She's an amazing character to play, and to sing those songs and to have that character arc and the payoff at the end, and you know, to play a human that has flaws like that is an experience like no other, because usually, especially in for young women in musical theatre, the classics are all a little bit, you know, the men get the meat, the women sing pretty songs in between, or you know, it's not always the case, but it was mind-blowing.
Okay, to have Sarah Bareilles in the room. She is one of the sweetest and loveliest people. I followed her whole journey through Waitress. She's been great. I've done many interviews with her. I adore her. But to be in the room with her, like, and then get it. I've spoken to every Jenna in New York, and the one question I've asked them all, how do you not breathe in all that flour and cough?
It's a really good question. And actually I did once, but I did it in a technical rehearsal. Thank God. It was before I'd started. But I was in such a flap. I was so nervous. I'd not played a lead in the West End. I did Cosette when I was young. And then I've been on the road and done lots of amazing things out of town. But I just had this whole sense of like, holy mother of wow, this is on you. This is a big role, you know. And I was really trying to push that aside and just do the job. But in the dress rehearsal on the day, I was dressing in the afternoon, doing the show in the evening. And in the dress, every time I walked into the diner, I was like, hey, Joe, I have no idea what happens in the scene. I'm so sorry. I've completely forgotten where I am. And then when we got to Soft Place to Land, I went, sugar. No, come on, girl. We ain't playing. Sugar, butter, flour. And I breathed. I don't know why I did it. And I did. And then we had to stop. Thank God it was a dress rehearsal, because you can't sing sometimes I still, like soft and gentle, pure, angelic, with flower in your throat. It's impossible. So I was like, I'm so sorry. Stop. Everyone in the cast must have been, bless them, they were so lovely, but they must have been like, who the hell is this chick? Oh my God, get Kat back. But yeah, thank God I never did it on stage. Never did it on stage in the end. But
No, because Jesse
there's
Mueller
still
told
time.
me. No, it's not. That's not going to happen for you. Jesse Mueller told me, she said, Richard, they changed it to like a gluten-free flour for her or something. Because Jenna has told me a story about that. That they've coughed or gotten an allergic reaction or something to it or whatever. So that's a big deal, because you're singing that beautiful number and the flowers flying, and I'm like, how does she not breathe in and not go?
It's what baking can do. Who was it? Was it Bailey or was it Desi said recently to me, they did sugar, butter, flour, and you throw the dough into a bowl of flour, and it was like, it's just like, don't let me down. Like, how do I do this? It's so hard. But yeah, well, so nothing but a challenge, hey?
Oh, I love it though. Listen, every Jenna's had it. This is just yours too. It's like, you did American Psycho. Now, I looked at who you did this with. Matt Smith, of course, American Psycho, and of course, Jonathan Bailey, who we've all fallen in love with from Bridgerton. I mean,
Yes.
What was that like, doing that show with those two?
Yeah, you know what? That whole cast, it was one of those moments where I felt very, why am I here?
Yeah.
And I need to earn my place here. And it wasn't imposter syndrome. It was like let me figure out why they've put me here. And because I do get the imposter syndrome big time.
Yeah.
Not so much now, because I really intricately learn everything about a character before I play them, before I am them. But at this point, I was young, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was like looking around this room going, why have they put me in this room? You need to figure that out, because otherwise it's going to cause you some problems. And I've got to tell you, Rich, I loved that show so much.
Yeah.
Because I learned so much from everyone in the room. We'd sit and do a note session at the end of the day, and I'd write down other people's questions, and I'd be like, why did they ask that question? Where did that come from? And Johnny did pardon me, is anybody there? Because if everybody's there, I'd like to thank you for coming to the wedding in Company in the West End, and he won the Olivier for it. Katie Braven was in that cast, who won the Olivier for original Carole King in Beautiful. Holly James, who's original cast Hamilton, original cast Moulin Rouge. She was one of the girls in that with me. Hollydale Spencer, who's like musical theatre royalty in terms of that, like classic musicals. Yeah. And I was just looking around this room like, what in the hell? This is unbelievable. Playing at the Almeida and being directed by Rupert Gould, who I don't know if have you seen the Judy film that he did last year? Oh, just broke my heart. That scene where sorry, we could do this all day. Yeah. The scene where she sits on the stage and sings Over the Rainbow, and the fans in the upper circle join in. I literally want to cry thinking about it. It just killed me. And that's him, that's heart, and it's truth. And that's what he did with an impossible story to do that with. He did it with Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. And actually, when I got that, I was ensemble, and I was the only person in the cast without a character name in the program. So my agent Gavin called them up, and he was like, bless her, do you mind giving her a name? Because I had lots of little cameos throughout the show, and I loved them all. So they just picked one of them. So I was Victoria.
I love that, because I was looking at the breakdown and like, wait a minute, maybe they changed a little bit of the book in the UK when they gave you that name.
Oh no, it was that Patrick, your arnica is hung upside down. No, that's ridiculous. And then he shoots her. So,
Well, listen, but I looked at that, guys. I love Rupert. He's one of my all-time favorite directors. I mean, I've watched his whole entire career that he's done here in the States. But, I also want to ask you about, right before the shutdown, you got to do your solo concert of Lucie Jones live at the Adelphi. I mean, this had to have been the most amazing thing for you. What was
Yeah.
that night like for you?
One of the best nights of my life, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely in my career. It was overwhelming. I'd had a little bit of a problem with my voice. So I wasn't on top form when we did it. And in the run up to the concert, I started to think, this set list is huge. I was opening with Don't Rain on My Parade. I was going into the last 5 years, Sing Happy, Piece of Sky, Into the Unknown from Frozen 2, The Prayer, Take Me or Leave Me, Bring Him Home, That's Life, huge set list, which I'd done when I was in Fine Fiddle the year before. Like the set list we put together just before Christmas, me and one of my best friends, who's the musical director of LMTO, who played at the gig with me. So I was nervous. I was definitely a nervous wreck, but trying to just think, right, okay, you know how to do this. Your singing teacher, your coach has given you all the tools of how to overcome this, and you love what you do. And all of those people out there are here to see you. They're not here to see a show or to see a character. They're here to hear your stories and to connect with you and support you. And that somebody had said that to me in the day, and it really gave me calm. It gave me a huge amount of calm, because I am the luckiest person in the world to have followers, and I don't like to use the word fans, but people who come to see me and things. I'm so lucky with those people. I know lots of them now, and they're awesome. They're great humans. That gang is special. I feel really, really lucky. So I had that in my heart, and the orchestra started. They played my in note, and I was off stage, and I started with Sugar in the right key to go into Don't Rain on My Parade. And I went, Sugar, and I heard a response from the audience. And Freddie turned to me in the wing, and he was like this, facing the audience, and he went at me, and I was like, yes, sugar, butter, flour, sugar, butter, flour, dun, 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 into Don't Rain on My Parade. I came on, and you can hear it on, because we recorded it for an album, but you can hear the response. It was like they knew that I needed an audible response of, have you got me? Am I going to be all right here? Are we going to be okay? Are we going to have fun? And they just made this noise that I will never, ever, ever forget. And knowing that my family was there, my grandmother, who'd had a bit of a health scare earlier that year, was able to come. My husband, his auntie and his mum, who were from, come from the States and France. Sarah Bareilles was there with Joe, and Sarah's family were all in because they were here to watch her in Waitress. Gavin Creel came because he was here to do Waitress. And just like all of these incredible people that I was like, what in the hell is happening here? And loads of like the drag race people that were in the UK game. I was just a really magical, beautiful thing. And I never in my wildest dreams could ever have anticipated it happening. Honestly, and without Waitress, it wouldn't have happened. Waitress put me in a position and gave me a confidence of give it a go. You never know, might go well.
Well, I'll tell you, it went great because I have a friend who is obsessed with your album. It's his favorite. It's like Judy at Carnegie Hall, Liza at Carnegie Hall, Lucie Jones at the Delphi.
Stop that. No, don't do that, because I've got those both on vinyl and I listen to them all the time. Who's that guy? I need to meet that guy.
He's really but look at the set you did. I love shows like that. To me, those are like big concert evenings where you pick one showstopper after the other. But you told them your way, so you should be. I know you have this whole other thing that went through your head that day, leading up to this stuff. But it's flawless. That recording is absolutely flawless. Congratulations on that. Right before the shutdown, too.
Thank you. I know. 2 weeks later, and it wouldn't have happened.
I know. Well, listen, we're just about out of time. But my final question for you is: what have you learned about yourself during this pandemic?
Oh, so many things, good, bad, and ugly. I'm not going to lie. I have definitely, I've learned things, like not about myself, but I've learned how to cook a little bit more. I've learned how to pamper myself rather than going somewhere else for someone to pamper me. I've learned when to stop drinking wine which took a while, not gonna lie. But about myself, I've so many things, and I really mean good, bad, and ugly. And it's important that I think everyone accepts that, because it's not just me. I've had many conversations with people where they've gone, oh my God, I really learned something awful about myself this year, or I don't like this about myself and I've learned to change it. Or one of the things that I definitely learned about myself is that I was investing my time, my personal time, in, you know, kind of a smorgasbord of people, and some of those people maybe weren't necessarily the right people to be spending my time and energy on. And I've got some really, really amazing friends. And since I came to that realization and invested in, you know, so I hope some of my friends don't watch this and think, actually, she has dropped off a bit. She's probably talking about me. It's not about that at all. I was just like, in terms of actually when I was able to go out and see people, it was really interesting for me to realize who I'd spoken to a lot during the pandemic, who I had supported, who had supported me through things, and at what juncture do you say goodbye to friends, or, you know, go. I understand it's getting really deep, but I definitely learned that so there are some people who are your good friends. There are some people who are your colleagues. There are some people who are your acquaintances, and that is okay. That is fine. I'm a person that I love people, and I love people of all different types. So I'm definitely a person that collects friends from different jobs and things like that. But there comes a point where you need to just check that, I think. And that point came for me last year. So I'm glad it's come. I'm glad it happened. But yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for being so honest. No, everyone said stuff like that to me. They've really learned a lot of stuff about what they want their life to be when it starts up again, who they want in their life, who was with them during this, just whatever. I mean, we've had a whole year and so to reflect on absolutely everything during this past
we really
year.
Have. We really have.
This has been so great. Once again, I want to remind everybody, the title of show starring Lucie Jones, Jenna Russell, Tyrone Huntley, and Mark Elliott begins streaming on Broadway HD on April 22nd. I know we have a huge fan base here in America who cannot wait. I know there's many people in the UK that want to see this also, and all over the world. That's the great thing about streaming like something on Broadway HD. All someone has to do, they can watch this anywhere around the world at any time. That's really, really exciting. Lucie, thank you for joining me today. This has been really great.
Oh, thank you. It's so good to chat, and I hope to see you soon. Imagine in person, maybe.
When we get your congratulations on Les Mis and everything else. What in May you are going to have, and then to go on tour again in Waitress. It's going to be great. Everybody, stay safe until we see you again. For all your theater coverage, drop by to BroadwayWorld.com. Stay safe, everyone. Take care.